I was around 18 to 19, still living at home with my mom and my little sister, and we would take weekly trips to Walmart when Mom and I got paid. I told my mom and sister I was going somewhere, and that just meant I was gonna walk around. While I was walking to the back of the store, I realized that a man was walking behind me. He was about 10 feet away, and I thought nothing of it. It seemed pretty normal. But something was off, and I couldn't shake the feeling. But I also kept telling myself that I was crazy. I kept walking, looking back every few seconds to see if the guy was still there, and there he was. I also noticed that, weirdly enough, there was nobody around this area of the store, and that freaked me out even more. I picked up the pace, to the point where I was almost running, and the guy was chasing me at this point. I was on the verge of tears, wondering why there was nobody around, until I got to the electronics section, and I finally saw some other people. I didn't say anything to anybody, because I guess since we got to a point where people were around, he left me alone. I was still freaked out, but I was relieved. I found my mom around the frozen food section and told her that a strange old white guy was following me. That freaked her out, and she told me not to go anywhere. My little sister, the angel that she is, was trying to comfort me, and I felt somebody was watching me. Across from where we were, I saw a head poking out of the woman's clothes section, and I whispered to my sister that there was a guy who was chasing me. She turned and saw him, and that's when he started walking away. And again, I thought that he would be gone since my little sister had seen him. We continued shopping, and while we were in line to check out, I noticed him again, and I told my mom that he was the guy. She told me not to look back at him and to just ignore him. He couldn't do anything since there were tons of people around. We quickly got checked out and left as soon as we could. I kept looking back to see if he was chasing us as we left to the car, but he wasn't around. We quickly put our bags in the car and dipped out of there. On the way home, my mom was angry and scared, and she told me to never leave her side again while we were shopping. Anyway, to the creepy stalking old dude at Walmart, let's not meet ever again. This isn't the scariest story, but it happened to me when I was 25 years old, when I just started dating guys. I still had little experience in the matter. This guy I matched with was in his early 40s, so he was 15 to 20 years older than me. But he looked attractive in his pictures. We were supposed to meet at an airport. I was coming back from a trip, and he was around at the time. So I told him my arrival time and where I came from. First mistake. Even if the airport is a public place, it is a bad idea to plan an appointment in an inevitable place. I mean that, whatever happens, I had to be at the airport at the time I told him. It's not like I made an appointment at a bar, you know. It just took this guy a simple search to find out exactly where I would be. But I was naive, and our discussions were completely normal. The first red flag, he asked for my identity. He asked for my first and last name. I politely refused to tell him, saying that it was a little too early, and that he just needed my first name. The second red flag, he sent me more and more messages. He got impatient when I did not answer quickly enough. He gave me nicknames as if we were already in a relationship, although we had not yet met. Even worse, he seemed to be on an incestuous father and son trip. Third, and probably the biggest red flag, about 2 to 3 days before my arrival at the airport, he tried to call me. I did not answer, but he left me a really disturbing message. Assume for a brief moment that my name is John Smith. My voice autoresponder was, "Hello, it's John Smith. I'm not available at the moment. I'll call you back as soon as possible." It was my second real mistake, giving my number to strangers on Grindr while leaving personal information on my answering machine. His voice message was, "Hey, John Smith. I'm delighted to know you, blah, blah," in a triumphant tone like, "I pwned you." It was too much. He was starting to freak me out, and I told him that I didn't want to meet him anymore. But he turned a deaf ear to that. He continued to talk to me and to pretend that our date was still maintained, while I continued to ignore it. At that time, which was in 2012, we could not block text messages, only direct phone calls, so he could harass me in text. I really thought he was crazy when he told me the day of my flight I would be dressed in a black coat, blah. What about you? At that moment, I lost my temper, and I just said to him, "Shut up! Leave me alone!" I was really stressed when I arrived at the airport. I was afraid of meeting him, even if I knew that I was not risking anything, theoretically. I was paranoid to the point where I was watching behind me when I was waiting to take a taxi. I was afraid that he would be mad to the point of following my taxi by car. Later that evening, he left me a message. "What happened, John? I waited for you. I worried, and I called the cops." Seriously? I don't think he ever went to the airport. He just wanted to take some sort of revenge for my rejection. But in any case, this guy was super shady. I'm glad I never met him. And I hope we never, ever meet again. Everyone, it is always smart to keep a password on your phone. I was FaceTiming my brother around 11 p.m. at night, playing games on my computer, Well, I had my phone on FaceTime with him. My computer is located next to a window that had been opened that night, but I had thought I had closed it. As I was talking to him, I heard two faint knocks that sounded like it came from the door. I thought it was nothing, and continued playing my game. A minute later, I heard two faint knocks again. This time, I knew someone was there, so I got up and left my phone where it was and opened the door, but found no one on the other side. I walked to the basement door to ask my boyfriend's parents if they were upstairs knocking, but they had been downstairs all along. I told them I think someone's in the house. We all came back up together and walked back to my bedroom, and guess what? My phone was gone. I was still on FaceTime with my brother when I left. Now the knock sounded like it was coming from the door, but it could have been someone outside my window. But I would have heard it coming from the window, but it didn't sound like that, so that part I do not know. There could have been two people in total, because it sounded like someone was trying to lure me out of the room. Turns out, when I left to get my boyfriend's parents, this is what my brother saw. He saw a girl's hand by the window reach in and grab my phone. I know I was being watched for at least an hour. She turned the screen off, but luckily, for me, I had a password on my phone. The window screen had been folded up, meaning someone from the outside was watching me for a while, trying to lure me outside, or at least outside of the room. And I am pretty sure I know who it is. My boyfriend's crazy ex. She had used at least 100 fake numbers trying to contact him for over 10 months. We just changed his phone number, so I can only assume she was trying to get my phone to see his new number in my contacts. I found my phone outside in the front yard. Most likely, she threw it away after realizing she couldn't get past my password. This is why I say you should always have a password on your phone. Maybe she should have tried FaceTiming me next time if she really wanted to know stuff. Needless to say, I hope she and I never meet again. This happened a while ago. I was about 16, and now I am 20 when this happened. I was 16 when this happened. I'm 20 now, by the way. I used to visit my brother, who lives with my grandparents in Utah. They had a beautiful house, and I loved visiting there. One night, I decided I would spend a week or two down there to visit my brother and enjoy being away from home. Now, me and my brother enjoy talking about creepy stuff, like creepy encounters, creepy beings, myths, and all that type of stuff. I have always enjoyed those topics. Well, one night, when I was sleeping over, we began to talk about creepy stuff again. He went on Reddit and was looking at creepy stories to read to me. we came across this one post, and for some reason, I can't remember what the story was, but it went something like this. And if anyone knows what story I'm talking about, please link it to me. I would love to read it again. Anyway, it may not all make sense because it's been a while, but it went something like this. Two people from different parts of the country both experienced something odd. They didn't know each other, and both found each other on Reddit when they posted about their experience. They both described walking home or to a friend's house at night and remember seeing this thing following them on the sides of the street in the dark. They described it as a blob-like figure, but it would turn into other things, and when they tried to think of it, their minds would go all fuzzy, and it would hurt them to think about it further. That is the short version of it. Anyways, he was reading me that story, and I was feeling fine and all, until, out of nowhere, I felt something go through me. Now, I'm not sure if an entity went through me, or if my spirit got momentarily taken out of my body, then got placed back in. It felt like one of those two, but I cannot pinpoint what it was. When it happened, all I could say was, I'm gonna pass out, I'm gonna pass out, because that was the closest feeling I had when it happened, and it was happening so quickly. Then, that is when my whole body started to shake uncontrollably. Not like a seizure, because I still had full control, but everything was shaking, even my teeth. He held me and tried making me stop shaking, but it wasn't working. He then got up and grabbed his phone and started reading something. I thought he was looking up what to do to help me, but it turns out he was reading a certain script from the Bible, and while he was reading it in his head, I started to stop shaking and begun to feel more comfortable. And while I was shaking and going through whatever just happened, I decided to focus my energy around me. When I was doing that, I could feel at least 8 beings in the house and 1 outside. And the only image that popped into my head was shadow figures. They weren't white ghosts, they were full-on shadows, and when I focused my energy even harder, the one figure outside was the one that haunted me. It was by the big tree next to his window, and I could feel the figure peering at me. Now, we are on the 2nd floor, for imagery-wise, but I could see and feel that thing staring up at me. And I believe that was the entity that had something to do with what happened. After my brother read the script, and I began to feel better, we took a walk in the house to keep my shaking down, and I soon began to feel better. After I was completely fine, I was ready for bed. I had a bed made in my grandma's room, but for some reason I refused to leave his room and sleep elsewhere, regardless that those entities were in there. I actually slept like a baby in that room and felt fine the day after. So I'm not sure what happened to me that night, but I know for certain that it was far from normal. This happened when I was like 5 or 6, with my older brother who was around 10. Our family went camping a lot with another family who had a son around my brother's age. My dad was in the Navy, so my brother and I were used to walking around the base to our friends' houses or to a nearby park, as it was pretty safe. So we had no problems going places without our parents. I guess that's why our mom let us ride our bikes down to the park at the campground we were staying at. We had been begging to go, and the park wasn't too far from the spot we were staying at. Of course, at the time, I was obsessed with animals, and my only goal in life was to one day walk with Steve Irwin. So I brought my dog along. He was fully grown, but not very intimidating, and definitely not aggressive. He was a border collie, blue heeler, black lab, Australian shepherd mix that I loved more than anything. Anyway, my brother and I play until our hearts are content, or as much as we can while still holding on to the dog leash. We stop so my brother can use the bathroom, and I wait by the wall outside with my dog. I'm just standing there petting him, and this huge guy walks out. I still remember what he was wearing. A black jacket with a gray shirt and jeans, and he had a big beer gut and gray hair. My dog, who had never even looked at someone funny before picking up his ears and stared at the guy, hair standing up and in attack position. The guy stopped right in front of me, and I felt my whole body go numb, and my blood turn cold. I went rigid and pushed back into the wall as far as I could. The man stared into my eyes and stepped closer. My dog practically looked rabid at this point. Tail up, foaming at the mouth, hair standing up like a cartoon cat, and growling and snarling like I'd never heard before. The man looked at me for a while, then to my dog. I still remember his eyes, brown, but somewhat glossed over. They almost sparkled, now that I think about it. My dog stepped towards him, and he backed away, eventually turning and continuing on. My brother came out after the guy was gone, and I told him there was a stranger or something and he told me the guy had been staring at him too when he was drying his hands. We decided to go back to our camper after that, and we never told our parents because we probably thought we'd get in trouble or something. Stupid, I know, but I was only 5. I've never stopped wondering what would have happened if my dog hadn't been there. He died a little over a year ago, and that was the only time he'd ever shown aggression like that. They say animals always know, and I believe that completely. I also think, now that the guy may have been waiting in the bathroom for kids to show up, or something, and didn't do anything to my brother because he didn't know if there were adults right outside. Then when he saw I was the only person there, he tried to make a move. Anyway, to the guy who would have done who knows what with me, let's not meet. I used to work for a well-known gas station chain. A lot of the time on the evening shift, which stretched from 4 in the afternoon to 12 at night. This night, I was alone. Though both cash registers were behind a wall of plexiglass, there was still a 2 to 3 foot opening between them, where a sliding door is for the night shift to close to avoid robberies. It was about 5 p.m. and still daylight when this guy came in. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up when he walked in. There was just something about him that just wasn't right. I should also add that I'm a female. Just felt I needed to say that. He walked to the back of the store and made it seem like he was looking for something in the coolers and by the back shelves. He never once picked anything up to read or look over, and every now and then he'd look up at me. He'd gradually made his way toward me, but would retreat to the back of the store when someone came in. This went on for about 10 minutes. These 2 women came in and went to my coolers at the back of the store. I quickly wrote a note on a piece of paper that said, "Please stay with me so I can call the cops." When one of the ladies came to pay, I showed her the note. She nodded and went and told her friend. I had my eye on this creepy guy while trying to keep from completely panicking. One of the ladies leaves the store, the other lingers around the store. She looks outside and sees something, then leaves. Immediately after she had left, and I was about to hit call, the creepy guy rushes up to the counter. He looks out the glass door as he's 2 feet from me, then bolts. I look outside, and the 2 ladies are talking to the cop that had just pulled up to get some gas. He pulled up right as the guy was rushing to my counter, by the way. The creepy guy must have seen the cop and decided it wasn't worth it. The cop looks over the guy as he takes off, then comes inside to talk to me. I explained to him his behavior and how my finger was on the call button as soon as he pulled up to get gas. The two ladies came back in to make sure I was alright, but then left soon after. The cop leaves, then comes back about 30 minutes later, saying they had picked the guy up. He explained that the guy was high on meth and was looking for someone to rob to fuel his habit even more. He was also in possession of a hunting knife, and the cop figured he would have seriously harmed me to get what he had wanted. To this day, I thank my lucky stars the cop pulled up when he did. So, dear meth head, let's not meet ever again. For a little background, I've been released from the hospital prior to these events taking place. I had intense abdominal surgery, just to let you know. All these events turned south because of the neighbor and my friend. A previous friend of mine, Alyssa, had just moved into a new neighborhood downtown, which was across from the police station. When she was moving, her neighbor, Ernie, was eyeing us the whole time. Stupidly, I thought nothing out of the ordinary would happen due to the police station being there. Looking back at it, that was an understatement. Fast forward to later that night. Alyssa and I go to her new garage and decide to smoke a few bowls. Before we even get to close the garage, this chunky woman in a white dress, whom I've never met before, comes up to us and asks,
"Have you seen Ernie?"
Alyssa's next door neighbor, by the way. I say aloud, without thinking,
"Who the hell is Ernie?"
This wouldn't be a horror story if I just left right then and there and never visit the area my friend lives in again. She continues to stare at us for a few moments and leaves. We both looked at each other in our confusion, not knowing what to say or do. The morning after, I stopped by to go visit Alyssa. As always, we prepare to have our daily sesh. We go outside and we run into the neighbor who was eyeing us the day before. He introduced himself as Ernie, and he introduced his other friend who accompanied him. This is when Alyssa and I reply with,
"Oh, so you're the Ernie everyone talks about."
Alyssa begins to gossip to Ernie and his friend about the girl trying to search for him in the garage. After mentioning her, Ernie and his friend begin to talk shit about her. He denied having anything to do with her, and all he does is just sell drugs to her. I'm a little concerned due to the hasty manner she approached us in the night before, especially knowing that she is most likely on meth. To me, that is an automatic threat. We finish up talking about the whole garage encounter soon after, and when moments pass after we part ways, I hear the psycho from last night approach us and yell,
"You're disrespecting me for some hood rats?"
Alyssa power walks to her house, and I go behind her. I warned Alyssa that I have a really bad feeling about this girl, and we shouldn't be talking to Ernie, just to avoid trouble. As always, Alyssa couldn't help but entertain any predicament she gets herself into. I know, I had a great friend. Fast forward to nighttime, around 9 p.m. I think. Ernie taps on Alyssa's window, and he invites us to brew it. Drink a beer. Since none of us had a vehicle, we walked to the liquor store, which was about 2 blocks away from her house. We get a 24-pack and sit by a remodeled house. This house was facing the alley, which leads to a fenced door before exiting. Moments before we get to crack open our beer, the psycho girl starts screaming and pounding on the fenced door. Alyssa leaves quickly. I didn't notice how fast she left me. Ernie is holding back this psycho. She breaks loose from his grip and starts to run. I stepped in front of her, expecting a punch to come my way. She dashed past me and sprinted towards Alyssa. I yell,
Alyssa, she's running up!
It was too late. The psycho girl had attacked Alyssa while she was off guard. All I can remember seeing is Alyssa's skinny head drastically moving toward the right. I couldn't even run to her and get her off. My surgery wounds were still too sensitive. I tried to power walk to her, despite the severe pain I was feeling. I frantically pull out my taser, and the piece of crap is almost dead. I knew I had one chance to get this psycho off my friend. I go up to her, and she's swinging and pulling my friend's hair off. I aim for her chest, since it was the only spot I can get a good grip on. Plus, I didn't want to risk tasing Alyssa. I begin to tase her, and she starts screaming that I'm hurting her. The psycho drops her arms and begins to waddle like a penguin. She literally couldn't move. After that, I look at Ernie, expecting to lose his shit on me after tasing his booty call. Ernie tells the psycho girl,
"What the hell is wrong with you? You're embarrassing me!"
And she starts to yell,
Babe, stop! You're hurting me!
The last thing I see before I went to go check on my friend was Ernie grabbing the girl by her hair, dragging her, and proceeds to smack the psycho girl's face into the concrete wall. To this day, I can't get that terrifying image out of my head. Nor can I forget hearing the compact of her face hitting the brick wall. Ernie proceeded to kick her in the face. At this point, it was too graphic for me to stay. I left to go check on Alyssa, and the psycho girl managed to rip off her nose piercing. Alyssa was furious and tells me to never speak of this again. I haven't said anything before this to respect her decision. When we arrived to Alyssa's house, her mom asked what was all the commotion about. She heard my taser go off, is what she means. I explained the situation to her, and she advised us to stop making friends with the neighbors. It has since been 2 years after this incident, and I cannot forget hearing the girl's face hitting against the concrete wall. Update on the girl. Hearing this news from the neighbors was unfortunate. She had to get stitches on her forehead. I am no longer friends with Alyssa due to other personal reasons, and her constant thirst for attention and petty trauma. So, Psycho Curl, Ernie, and Alyssa, let's not meet again. Thank you all for listening. Please, if you have not already, leave me a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, visit my gaming channel. The link will be in the description down below, along with the links to the stories I have read here today. I hope my telling of these tales has entertained you, as well as caused a shiver to run down your spine. Till next time, farewell.